All right, so I'm going to show you how I modeled this thing. It's a, now what do you call these? It's a thread ID tool. About halfway into designing this thing, I realized that you can probably buy these. So yeah, I know that. Try to get it ahead of you in the comments, but anyway, um, it's customized. These are parts I use all the time. It doesn't have all the different threads and everything. So this is just to help me keep, stay organized with whatever fasteners I have, and then also check things from other, other objects that might be taken apart. So I'll show you how I modeled this. So in Fusion, I've kind of already started the process here, but what I did was made a component by going here to create new component, and then I did insert McMaster car component for all of these. And then I renamed each one because when they come in, they only give you the part number right there, which is really useful, but it doesn't tell you what it is. And then I renamed them and added the designation of each part here. So M3 through, there should be a 14 in there. They kind of got rearranged because I moved them in here. Doesn't really matter. So those are the nuts. So that's M3 through 14. Then imperial screws, so 440 up to half 13. And then imperial nuts. So I've just got the one left to bring in. So I'm going to right click and activate that. And I'll hide these other three here. And I got one more to bring in, which is the half 13. So I'll go insert, McMaster car component, nuts, hex, inch, and then down here to half 13. And you can see there's a really wide range of different, screw sizes and thread, and thread, I guess, what do you call that, pitch. But these are just the ones I use the most. So I'll go to product detail for that. And let me kind of start over here. Nuts, hex, inch. And I pick the one, it's the last one I need to bring in, which is half 13. And then I'm just going to pick any one of these. They might differ slightly in the size, and I'm not sure which ones I have necessarily. It doesn't really matter because the outer dimensions will probably be exactly the same, and then might be a little bit of a difference in the thickness, but shouldn't really matter too much. And anyway, getting the thicker one is probably better just to make sure everything fits. Then I'll go to product detail for that one that I picked. Go down here, make sure I'm on 3D step. That's what'll come in and work with Fusion. Then save. And here it is. So they're all kind of in different orientations. That just depends on how the model was done. But now you've got all the parts in. So I can click on this. Then I'll go over here and I'll call it half-13 because that's the actual size of that one. Then I can go back here to activate, and then I can make my, my 2D object that these are going to snap to. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is give myself a flat, kind of a flat panel to put all these things in place. So I'll turn that off, and then I'll just make a new component. Just good practice here, and I'll call this panel. Then I'll make a rectangle, pick a plane for a sketch, and then I'm going to make a, actually I don't need a rectangle, I just need a sketch here because I'm going to start with points. So I'm going to do, let's see, actually I'm going to do circles. I think that's the best way to go. So I'll do a circle, and it doesn't really matter what size it is. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. Then I'm going to take that, click on that, and then I'll make it a construction line by clicking that little button right there. Then I'll click this, sketch, rectangular pattern. And what I'm doing here is giving myself a kind of a grid of places for those parts to snap to. So when I click on an object and then do rectangular pattern, it gives me these arrows. And I'm going to do like this and like this just to kind of be able to see it visually. I'm going to change extent to spacing. And the spacing will be 1 inch. Oops, 1. My zoom doesn't seem to want to work. It's irritating. Happens sometimes when you sort of shift around. Yeah, spacing should be 1 inch. And then click on that, 1 inch. And the number I want is going to be, I'll be able to see it here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I want 8 in this direction. And then in this direction, see the prompts change here. For the distance of 1, I want 4 of those because I've got 2 nuts and 2 bolts, two screws in that grid. And then I click OK, stop sketch, and I'm going to drag that because it's glitchy right now for some reason. What I've got here is a bunch of circles I can adjust. Now, they're not really big enough for me to be able to see what I'm doing, and that's going to be irritating. So what I'll do is right-click on this, edit sketch, and then I'm going to go to this first one here, click on that, and then look at. Should zoom into it. Maybe that doesn't work here. Yeah, this happens sometimes. You get like doesn't want to use the keyboard shortcuts. This stuff starts acting weird. Okay, I'll click on that, and then D for dimension, and let's make this 0.5. Stop. And they're all connected, so that I can kind of see them like this now. So then I will tell you what, I'm going to click that to go out of full screen, then back. Sometimes that tricks it into working again, but not this time. And where is my home button up there? It's kind of irritating. That, so I can kind of see it in 3D. Got to trick this stuff sometimes. It gets glitchy, but they usually fix this stuff pretty quickly. All right, then I'll turn on, let's start with metric screws. That was the first thing I started with over here. We'll go right there and then activate to kind of get to this main view right here. Then what I'm going to do is pick each one of these things and move it. So I'm going to make things simpler, I'll go to Select, Selection Filters, turn off Select All, and then turn on Components. So I can pick that, and what I'll do is, you know what, we'll just start with the things we can see. Let's keep this simple. I will, oops. Oh man, this is so irritating. Click on that, and then I want to get this underside here. Maybe the best thing to do is turn all of these off. So I'll select all of those, right click, show hide. I guess I'll just start with number 3 here. And then I will use the align tool and go from there. So that's going to be a center point to that. Click, I'm going to flip that so it's pointing up. Click OK. Then I'll just go down the list here. So M4 is right there. They're in a weird order because of the way I made this, but that's okay. Click that, then here, and then flip to make sure it's up. You may or may not need to do that. Same thing here. That, this, and flip, and OK. It's 5, next will be 6, and so on. And you want to get that center point right there so that they're all aligned nicely. It'll still work even if you don't do that, but it's going to look a lot cleaner if you do. Align, center point over to there. Flip. Okay. Click the little pan tool so I can see everything. Where was I? 8. So the next will be 10. Here. That. Okay. Flip. 12. That. Here. Here. Okay. And then 14 will be last here. And there. Then I'm going to pick this one, which is the main component holding all of these, and then I'm just going to move it over to the middle because I wanted it where the screws are on the inside. It'll be easier to reach stuff that way. Click on all of those, right click, move copy, and then I'll go here to point, and click that, and this, and then click OK. So now those are all aligned. Now, that's not going to make for a really good object though, because really what I need is for the screws, for the bottom of the screw to be aligned across, not the top of the screw. That was a little more difficult to do on the underside because I didn't have that center point automatically there, but that's easy enough to fix here, and we'll just do that. So I'm going to do align, and then I'll pick just anywhere on the top of this, and then click anywhere on the top of this. Now it's important that I don't see that little cursor that comes up as a box, because if I do, it's going to move the thing over, right? So as long as it's anywhere on that top surface from the other one, even if the other one has that little square cursor, it's going to just move up in that direction. You don't want it to move in the X or Y. You just want it to move in the vertical, Z in my case. I'll click OK just to so I don't lose my work if I make a mistake here. But you'll see what happened there is that they're all aligned in that bottom part now, right? So I'll zoom in like that, and here. And then I'll pick the top of this, and then somewhere on the top of that. Enter. I don't have to keep going back to this tool like I just did. I can just kind of stay in it, keep doing that if I want. And get there, and find a nice big one somewhere. Maybe over there. Click OK. And now, when you look at it from the side, you'll see they're all aligned on the underside of the screw head. And that's what I want. Okay, and then I'm going to fast forward through the rest of this part, but you're just going to do the same thing with the nuts, right? So they're in the same place over here, and then aligned to the underside. So now that I have everything lined up and positioned the way I want, I can move on to the next couple of steps here. So one thing I had to do was rotate these two so that they're not in the same orientation as the rest of them, because they would have been touching otherwise. But from the top view, this is actually a pretty good place to start with this part. So I'll make a new component. I'll call this lid, and make a sketch. And I want to make it in this plane, so that's this top plane right here. Capture position, because if you don't do that, it's going to move things. And then from here, I need to get the center point of each one of these nuts. And I've already got that from the outlines there. So probably the best way to do this would be, let's see, I think I can do, yeah, so I can snap to the stuff in the other sketches here. So really the way to do this, if you want to get it right, is to you're going to manually type in the diameters of these things. You can get, no, actually you don't need to do that. All you need is this this surface, because that's going to be the full extent of the screw. Yeah, so all you got to do is sketch and project down here, and then just click on each one of these. And you want to make sure you've got this specified entities on your selection filter right there, and click on the thing that's going to give you that outline. So that one didn't want to work, and that's because it's a different kind of, that's because it's a nut, right? So I think body maybe? No, that'll be too small. So in some of these cases, depending on the geometry of that particular object, you might need to just manually make a hole. But that's easy enough because you can just click on that, right? And then Command-C, Command-V, copy paste, and then just point to point from here to center point right there. And then you're going to want to extend that so it's a full circle, and you get actually a closed profile right there. And that should give you what you need, right? So the nuts give you a nice surface that's easy to project. The screws don't, because they have this helical shape to them, right? So probably the easiest way to do this is just to project, and P is the shortcut for that. And I'll just click all of these here, like this. Just get all those surfaces like that. Then I'm going to just select everything, and then Command-C, Command-V, and I'll go point to point like this. Because I know they're all centered, right? So this is the quickest way to get what I want. And then I'll repeat the same thing down here. So P for project, and then I'll just click all of those surfaces, all those faces. Like so. Escape, and then I'll pick all of those. Command C, Command V. Oops. Try that again. Command C, Command V. I just want to copy for some reason. What's going on there? Huh. All right, maybe if I turn these off. Metric nuts. Turn that off and see if that does the job. Command C, Command V. Huh, it's weird. I don't know what's going on there. You might have to do them individually like this. Sometimes it'll catch something that you don't want to be there. So when I was selecting all of those, there might have been some object that it didn't want to copy for some reason. So let's try just these. No, maybe it's panel. Copy paste. There we go. Point to point. And then I just get it to the center right there. Sure that's all set and we're good. Okay, now I've got all the stuff I need, and what I want to do now is turn the geometry that I'm not going to use into construction geometry. So, I mean, just to kind of think about this, like what are we going to make here? It's really just a rectangle on top. So this is the top panel. I'm going to draw that and then make a decision about the dimensions of it. The one that I made was like this. Okay, so it looks like I went with 9 inches on a side, and then I just let the millimeters be this kind of arbitrary 22 and 22 centimeters and I don't know, 22.8 or something like that. So anyway, 9 inches on a side. That's easy enough. So I'll do D for dimension, here to here, and then I'll make that 9 because my units are 9, or my units are inches. Okay, and I'm gonna need this wants to be aligned there, so I'll do a line from here to here, and then I'll do another line to like snap to that midpoint right there. I'm going to turn these into construction lines because I don't want them to cut through anything, so I don't have to select too many things. So select those in X, and then I'll do D from here to here, and that'll be 4.5. So that's how I know it's aligned that way. And then I want some play on the edges because I need some room for the graphics there. So I'll do D for dimension and then here to here, like that. Let's make that 0.75. That's probably enough. I think I did it a little wider in the other one, but it doesn't really matter. You get the idea. And then D, this line to that. And that wants to give you a center point. So let's how do we want to do that? Let's just give ourselves a point. Go there to that midpoint, and then D from that point to here. And 0.75. Oops. Probably did something crazy. 75 or something. Yeah. 0.75. One more time. 0.75. There we go. Okay. So now I've got this top part, and what I want to do is to avoid making a bunch of selections, I'm just going to catch as many of those outer circles as I can in a go. It's like just that one right there, and X, and then I'll do this, X. You know, it's probably easier to do this vertically. So I'll go like that, X. I'm just turning these into construction lines, X, because I don't want to have to select a bunch of different profiles. So if you look over here, you'll see I accidentally did a couple I didn't want to do. But when you select the that shape, right now it's getting this kind of outer circle right there. But I don't want it to do that. I want to get like, wait, there's something weird going on here. Turn off that panel maybe. And then I'm going to turn all of these off so I can see what I'm doing. Right. What is going on here? So that should be a separate thing. Oh, they're on the wrong plane. Oh, I see, because I copied and pasted, and when I pasted from point to point, it moved it up in a plane because I pasted it to the top of these screws here, these ones, right? So whatever center point I picked was up there. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'll click on this and shift click on that, and then you'll see down here at the bottom it's 0.984 inches. So I can just move that stuff down by that much. Click that, pick that, right click, move copy. I'll move that one down and then say minus 0.984. And that should put everything in the right plane. Looks like it did. Right. But that didn't give me, they're not part of that sketch, so I'm going to need to project that stuff. So I'll select all of those, and then P. Is that going to work? No? Okay. How about this? Midpoint. Well, looks like I'm going to have to go back and fix that because there's something funky going on there. So let's just undo, going back here. And I've got all the projections I need, so to save myself from myself, I'm going to turn off that stuff. And I'll go here. I'll pick all of that, right click, move copy, sorry, pick all of that. Copy, paste. Actually, I need to be doing these down here. They need to move up. Wait. It's 0.59. 0.56. Okay, good. So I did do these right. All right. Take all of those, copy, paste. Copy, paste. Wait for it to think. Make sure this is back out here. Point to point, and I'll just go from this one to this one. Now, to get back to what I was doing, I'm going to pick the outer circles like that, and these, I don't want these to make their own profiles because I'm going to want to make my shape in just one quick move. So all of those outer circles are going to be construction lines. I'm just picking them and hitting the X key. All right, so I should have a bunch of profiles I can use. That looks good. And then I'm going to do what I did before. So I'll give myself a line that I can use to make a midpoint through the whole drawing. Pick those two and X. I'll do a rectangle here. I'll do a dimension from there to there. I don't need to do that. I want to do this. That is going to be 9. And then I'll do another one, dimension here to here. 4.5. Give myself a point on the vertical end of this. D to there. 0.75. And I'll do that again here. 0.75. No, I got some weird anomaly there when I did that, because it's like I've got a double here, and it's thinking for some reason that this is a fixed distance from here. How about this? I'll take this line and this line, right click, and just fix those in place so they don't move. then I'll make this 0.75. There we go. Again, dimension to here, 0.75. You'll notice when I made this a fixed dimension, it turned green. That means you can't move that. This is going to stay fixed, and whatever other dimensions you do is going to be relative to that. All right, I'll stop that sketch. And then I made this part out of like a thin piece of plywood. If you really want to get careful with it, you can make parameters, and I usually recommend that. But in this case, it's not that complicated, so I'm just going to leave it like this. And I'm already in my lid component, so I'm going to click Extrude on there, and then I'll make it 1.5 millimeters. So that's the depth of that part. Okay, now if you look back at what I made here, that's sort of a trim that goes on top. You could 3D print this part, but these little notches for millimeters are very precise, and it's going to be kind of hard to read on a 3D print. So I did this with a laser, but you could always just print out some paper and stick it on top of there with this. And you'll have these files are in the Instructable, so you can just print them out. Did these in Illustrator. But anyway, as far as geometry, there's that. So now I have a lid here, and then if I turn these on, you'll see that they all stay in their place. All right, so then the next thing to do is I'm going to move this up a little bit, because this is like a trim piece that goes on top of the 3D printed part. All right, so actually, let's do it like this. So this will be my 3D printed part. Let's start there. Go back to that, activate like this from the side. Then I'm going to do a create sketch on this, and then I'll just draw like a little lip that's going to come down here. Hold shift until I see that little perpendicular thing. You can always add that stuff later, but it's a little bit easier to do it here. All right, I'm going to give those a dimension, so these will be 3 millimeters. Here, 3 millimeters. And at this point, I'm going to be doing everything in millimeters because I've already got the inch stuff down, so I'm just going to go ahead and change this to millimeters, so I don't have to keep typing in the units. And then I'll do a dimension from here to there. Let's call this, 18 looks good. I like to use whole numbers for this stuff because it's just coincident that to that. No, sorry, it needs to be a line. Coincident from here to here. Those will be connected now, but I like to use whole numbers for things whenever possible. It just makes your life easier if you need to make changes. You're not wondering about weird fractions. You don't have to measure as many things. It's a good idea to stick with that if you can. I just did an extrude. Whoops, finish one. Extrude this to this, back to there. Now I've got this like lip, right? And then the next thing I need to make is a base to fit all this stuff in. Okay, so I'll go here, right click, activate. And I'm going to make a new component. Let's actually name that base. And I'll make a sketch here. And then I'm just going to do this. I'll just draw this. Just kind of touching that and hovering so that it meets up with the side. And then D for dimension. And I'll do this to this point. And let's make that like 6 millimeters. That's probably fine. It's a little thick, but it's okay. All right, then I'm going to do extrude from here back to there. And the default's going to be new body, which is what I want. And then since these parts are going to interlock, I'm going to need to give myself some tolerance for this thing down here, on the sides particularly in this case. So I'll pick that, turn off the lid, and then I'll press pull this by minus 0.15. That's a dimension I've tested on my printer that works really well for things that are that need. Whoops, it's too far. Press pull that minus 0.15. I know that tolerance works for stuff I've done. All right, Now, the next thing we're going to do is cut this stuff out of the base here. Now, there's a few ways to do this, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, but I'll just show you the way that I think is probably going to be the most expedient. You could do it like this, for example. I could take that and then cut out this nut on this bolt right here, and always keep tools, right, because I don't want to lose that. And then if I look here, I'll see it just cut out that shape, including the little number there. So this gives me a lot of, let's turn off that metric screw. So this gives me a bunch of geometry that I don't want to print, that I'm going to need to come in here and delete and clean up later, right? I'll have to pick all those things because that's not really going to be a good enough fit like that. And then I'd have to go here and try to grab all that stuff, but I don't want to grab things I don't want, so I delete that. And then I forgot this thing over here. And that's fine, it'll work. It's just, it's kind of tedious. So I think the easiest way to do this is going to be like this. I'm going to turn on that, undo that, turn this on, and then I'll go create sketch on the top surface right there, top face. Then P for project, click that, and then I'm going to turn off this body there, and then just pick all of these things. So this is the whole profile of all these objects are being projected. Click OK. Now I've got all that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go to the top here, and then I'm going to drag a window over all of that, and then extrude. And then it's just going to pick the stuff that I can actually select in here. And then I'll just go the farthest distance down here, just to start with. Down like that, and then new body, and I'll turn this on so I can see what I'm going to make. And it wants to cut. I don't want to do that. Not just yet anyway. So I'll turn that off. You could also just change the operation to new body, but when there's nothing else there, it does it automatically. Click OK, and there we go. So now I'll go through the tedious task of press pull that to here, right? But that's not going to work because they were all done at the same time. Maybe this isn't the best way to do this. I mean, you can just extrude, because that's going to treat them individually. So if you extrude that to hover, and you'll see that surface, and then it's going to cut, and it shouldn't be cutting anything but the thing you just made. So you just kind of keep doing that, one thing at a time. I'm open to suggestions. If anybody else has a faster way to do what I'm doing here, I'd love to hear it. But this way makes the most sense to me in terms of spending time. Okay, so now I have all my little, I guess you can call them bucks. That's like from a sculpting lexicon, but they're the little pieces I'm going to use to cut out this main body here. So I'll turn that back on, and then I will turn these off. I don't want this stuff to get in the way. And I've got all my little pieces there, so I'll do combine. That's my target body. And then tool bodies is going to be all the rest of this stuff. And I don't want to keep the tools, because those aren't useful to me after I do this. So when I click that, I should see that all of these things fit in here just fine. And that should be good. So the only other thing I want to do is turn those off. I'll go here, create a new sketch on the top, and then I'll turn on the lid and P for project. Click that. And then I'm going to extrude these profiles where the nuts are, because I want to be able to thread pretty far into them, because you can get tricked when you're threading screws into nuts, because the thread might be close enough, you know, it's like a metric screw or an imperial screw or a different thread pitch diameter or whatever. So yeah, that should do it. It's going to be able to extrude through. Now just some basic shape stuff. So I'm going to use the chamfer tool right here, and then I'll pick all of these edges. This going through. And I'm chamfering because basically I don't need this much material. And if I can, I'm going to use less material, because that means less 3D printing filament in this case. I don't need to go too far. So actually I think I should do more like 9, because I want a little bit of a lip right there on the one that's the most distant. But that's pretty good. So that should save me a little bit of material and probably some time too. And because it's at a 45-degree angle, it's not going to need any support material when I 3D print it. So this is pretty much it. This would work on its own. Another thing I did here was to, oh, that's weird. Go and delete it, no? Shouldn't be there. Oh. It's kind of a funky artifact. I'm not sure what I did wrong there. Maybe it didn't quite go all the way in, but it's probably not going to matter. I think if I bring that into a 3D print, that'll be okay. Kind of want to see that same thing. Anyway, you can take this profile, right? I'll do a create sketch like that, stop sketch, and then over here, I can take that and save as Dxf, and then that'll give me a sort of a starting point, right? So I think that was actually probably one of these. Oh wait, no, different folder. Hold on. Garage, thread tester. So it would be that, cap graphics, right? So what you get is this. And I just drew this stuff in Illustrator on here. So you could do that in whatever program you want, Graphic or in Inkscape or something like that, and then have your little a label. I added the rulers because it also helps to know exactly what the depth of your screw is. So yeah, that should be pretty useful. And the other thing I did, I mean, if you look at the finished product here, I did a little bit of finessing. I added this little keyhole feature so it can hang on the wall. And there are screw holes on the sides. You can see them there, that keep this thing on top. So you could take it apart and take the nuts out, but in hindsight there's really no point, because the holes are so specific to those nuts that you might as well just glue the whole thing together. Yeah, and then this part here is really just to get a clearer picture, and I think it's a little more durable. And of course, if you got access to a laser cutter, why not, right? But this should give you a pretty good picture of what it is. Anyway, remember to go to the Instructable to see all the details, and you can just download this file too. But I hope this was useful.